Welcome back, Epic 7, to part 2, or the first proper part, of a new player's experience. In this episode, we'll be going over Selective Summons, the Aspiring Adventure Progression Path, the Moonlight Blessings, so if you're unsure about who to pick and what you should be doing when you first start this game, just follow alongside me, and you'll be on the right track. Not everyone's playthrough will be the same as mine, and you may want to choose a different character than me. I want you to pick who looks the most fun to you, because the goal is to have fun, and meta comes second, until later on when you're doing PvP, then it's basically all meta. Well, let's get on with the video. Okay, so just after completing the tutorial, we're given the option to do a selective summon. There is actually only a select set of heroes that it allows you to get on this banner, but there's a couple of note. And if you want to know who's best, I'll put them in a list that I'll put up on screen now, and I'll talk about a couple of them. Remember, this is just my opinion, and nearly every character on this list has a niche somewhere in the game. But this is a list of what characters give you the best boost to your account and help you get through the early game. And some you'll even use until mid and late game. Okay, now while I go through my selective summons, I'll talk about the characters you can pull, and we're not going to be covering C and D tier, because I don't think you should really be pulling them at this point in the game. They are good for later on content or PvP, but there is one exception for this, and that's Sigrid, and I'll talk about her in a second. And to be honest, there is one character on the selective summons that I would highly suggest against pulling, and that's Ken, because he's really only good in one area of content, and there is better people to use instead of him, so I would say probably don't pull him. Now onto Sigrid. Sigrid used to be a must pull on this banner, as she's the primary damage dealer against Wyvern, which is a hunt you'll be farming a lot in mid and late game. But you can actually get it for 3 through an event alongside 2 very other good characters, so you shouldn't pull her on the selective summon, as she's obtainable through the hunt event, which is available to everybody. You'll just need to wait a little bit longer to get her. Okay, now let's talk about the B tier characters, those being Destina and Ravi. Let's start with Destina. She is a green soul weaver with amazing healing and cleansing potential, and a revive built into her kit. She'll help you through most PvE in the early game and even mid game, and she's useful in some areas of the late game. Another bonus is that she's a very strong PvP character and can easily be turned into one. But the main reason she's in B tier is when it comes to PvE, there is better soul weavers. There's a soul weaver by the name of Tamrin, and she's pretty much in 9 out of 10 cases going to be a better character in PvE. Now let's look at the other B tier character, Ravi. Ravi is an amazing damage dealer with self-heal and a chance to stun on her S1. Her S2 passive makes it so the longer the fight goes on, the more powerful she'll get. And her S3 has a stun and also a 50% defense penetration, which makes her effective at killing bosses. She's also, like Destina, a very good PvP option for later on if you want to take her into it. That being said, I do think there's a better damage dealer to pick up on this list, because they'll make getting through the story faster and farming faster. He's also a very good hunt character for 2 other hunts, and I even use him for one of my one-shot teams in Azamantic 13. And that is the only A tier character on my list, Vildred. Vildred is a damage dealer, like Ravi, but his kit has a lot more AoE in it. Vildred's S1 will attack 2 enemies on the field, one that you select and one random one, which, as long as there's 2 enemies on the field, effectively doubles the damage that you are doing per turn. It also pairs very nicely with his S2, but I'm actually going to skip over his S2 and do it last because I feel like that's what ties his kit together. So now onto his S3. Vildred's S3 is a devastating AoE attack that attacks all enemies on the field. As an added bonus, it also scales with Vildred's speed, so you actually get more attack if you build him fast, which is quite nice because having him fast means he gets the first turn. Most of the time with his S3, or even his S1, you'll kill one enemy, and that's where his S2 comes in. His S2 skill is triggered when he defeats an enemy. When his S2 is triggered, his attack will be increased for 2 turns. He will also be granted an extra move where he does an AoE attack, attacking every enemy on the field, and will receive a 20% combat readiness push per enemy defeated. The 20% combat readiness push will always happen no matter who defeats the enemy. And no, the S2 sadly can't re-trigger itself. But enough about him. Let's talk about what I, and most people, consider to be the best selective summon pick, and that would be the only character I put in S tier, Iceria. Unlike Vildred and Ravi, Iceria is a support character. Let me show you her skills so you can understand why I think she's the best choice. Her S1 will attack an enemy with a chance to inflict the debuff called Defense Break, which decreases the enemy's defense by 70%. Defense Break is probably the most useful debuff for PvE, as it makes the enemies take way more damage. Now onto Iseria's S2. Her S2 will reset a skill cooldown of an ally of your choice, and will grant an extra turn to herself. If you pair this with a character named Tamarin, who is arguably the best PvE character in the game, they'll basically carry you through the whole story and harder content, but even without Tamarin, she's very useful. Her S3 will attack a target, dispelling all debuffs and then decreasing the enemy's defense and making them unbuffable for 2 turns. Having a strip on an S3 alongside 2 debuffs is really nice because some enemies have immunity and it allows you to strip them and then apply defense break and unbuffable, which is really nice. For this playthrough, I chose Vildred. And that concludes my selective summons. Now, we are moving on to the aspiring adventure path. After doing your selective summons, you'll want to do the aspiring adventure path. You can get to this by clicking the lady's face on the right hand side of your screen, and the menu will open up like this. You'll probably be up to mission 4, so make sure to claim the first 3 rewards. From there, you want to just do what it tells you to do. There'll be an icon you can follow around that will guide you in the right direction. You should be up to the part where you have to enhance equipment to +3. Don't be too picky with what equipment you enhance, because most of the equipment you have right now is pretty useless. Now you're up to stage 5, and it says to clear stage 110 in adventure. But before you do that, I'd recommend going and clicking the hero button on the bottom left hand side of your screen, selecting the team option and building your team, and putting that awesome new 5-star in it. The team I ended up doing was Aras, Vildred, Montmorency, and Alexa. Now you've done that, all you gotta do is go click that adventure button and start your adventure. Okay, so your goal for adventure at the moment is to make it to stage 110. So I'm just going to speed up the background and get to 110 myself. You just take your time and learn how to play the game. Just follow what the game tells you to do. Getting to stage 110 should only take you around about 5 minutes. Doing the story mission is also the main way you'll get Skystones in the early game, which is the currency used to get bookmarks, which allows you to pull on character banners. It also gives you lots of bonus goodies, for example XP penguins, bookmarks, and character upgrade materials, along with a bunch of other stuff. There's also some characters, artifacts, and special rewards that can only be obtained through the story, like when you complete 1-7, you receive a character named Mercedes who's a pretty decent AoE damage dealer. Also, no spoilers, but if you play further into the campaign, you'll get an artifact that makes it like twice as good. So if you didn't pick Vildred, consider putting her in your team. Not long after obtaining Mercedes, you'll make it to stage 1-9. Congratulations, we're almost there. After clearing the first wave of enemies, you'll be presented with a Chaos Gate. Chaos Gates are things that appear on certain levels throughout the story. They're a one-time completion, they'll pin you up against tough enemies, but I would always recommend doing them, because they'll drop something called a Breath of Orbis, which will allow you to upgrade your Sanctuary back when you're in the tavern. But we'll talk about upgrading the Sanctuary another time. After you clear the Chaos Gate, you'll be put back in the original stage, and just complete it, and then you'll be at 110. Woo! Let's go us! So we're here, we're at stage 110. Now just navigate your way through the stage, kill the boss, and boom, you've taken your first step to becoming a grand champion at this game. I'm expecting to see you in the legend ranks this week, and for all this hard work, you get a cutscene.
Is this the ceiling sphere? Huh?
As you can see, Vildred betrays us, and he becomes Arbiter Vildred. He will be the first main boss of the story. Although it looks like you're about to get thrashed, this fight is actually really easy. And once you beat him, you're treated to this game's intro, as I call it.
pray for only one way. 그 잃어버린 시간. I'll heal your heart. 다 돌아올 테니. Only one way I know. 더 기다려온 세계. I pray for your dream. 너와 함께 할 테니. I pray for only one way. 이제 다가오는 시간을 난 다시 함께 할게 그 어디에서도. Desperate 깨지 않도록. So it's not to break. 또 영원하기를. No more breakdown. 다시 태어난 변하지 않는 이 다시 시작될 Desperate.
Yeah, baby! You did it. Congratulations. Now just click on that portal and get back to the tavern. Now you're back at the tavern. Let's open up the expiring adventure path. Make sure you're claiming your rewards as you go along it. You should see that your next mission is to select the Moonlight's Blessing hero. So what you're going to want to do is go back into the tavern, and just under the expiring adventure paths icon, there should be a new option, Moonlight Blessings hero. It will give you the option to choose 1 out of 6 Moonlight heroes. Compared to normal RGB heroes, these heroes are very hard to obtain, so you want to pick wisely. So I'll go from worst to best, and I'll tell you who I think you should pull, because to be honest with you, some Moonlight heroes are pretty useless. Okay, starting off the list is Judge Kisei. Sadly, Judge Kisei doesn't really fit in anywhere. She can be used in PvP and PvE, but she's definitely not the best pick. I would highly advise not picking her. The next on my list is Martial Artist Ken and Dark Corvus. The main reason I would recommend not pulling these two is because they require a high gear investment to be good, and they're mainly used in PvP and get countered quite often. Next up, in third place, is Royale of Light. But sadly, although she's a good PvP character, you shouldn't pull her now, because she's not as good for your account's progression as the next two on this list. And also, there is one character on this list in particular who outshines almost everyone else. So I wouldn't really recommend pulling any of those 4 characters, and I'd recommend pulling one of the next two, especially number 1, because number 1 will dramatically increase your account in PvE and PvP. But the number 2 option will help you dramatically in the early and mid game, but he falls off pretty hard when you get to late game, and that is Arbiter Vildred. I'll actually tell you a little bit about his kit, because I actually think he's a decent choice if you don't want to pick number 1, who as you can tell will be Spectre Tenebria. Arbiter Vildred's S1 will attack 2 enemies as long as there's 2 enemies on the field, and decrease their combat readiness by 10%. We're going to skip over his S2 and come back to it after his S3. His S3 attacks all the enemies, decreasing hit chance by 2 turns. When Arbiter Vildred's focus is filled, it will consume it all, increasing the damage dealt. When an enemy is defeated with this skill, the cooldown does not occur. Now onto his S2. His S2 will activate after he receives lethal damage. When he receives lethal damage, meaning he dies, he will regenerate 70% of his HP and increases combat readiness to 100%. He will also gain full focus and reset his skill cooldown of his S3. I'll add this in here. All the stats that I'm saying right now are before Malagora, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Malagora is the thing used to upgrade skills. But enough of that. Now on to number 1, who I reckon you should pull for sure. That being Spectre Tenebria. Honestly, you should definitely pick her, but if you want to pick someone else, pick Arbiter Vildred. Spectre Tenebria is an S tier character. She's good in PvE, she's good in PvP, she's good in Abyss. She's just a really well-rounded character. And I think that she's definitely the best pick because she doesn't fall off late game. Matter of fact, she probably only gets stronger late game as your gear improves. I'll quickly go over her skills so you can understand what I'm talking about. Spectre Tenebria's S1 is an attack that has a 50% chance to inflict poison for 2 turns. The attack cannot trigger a counter attack, and if her S3 is on cooldown, it will attack 2 enemies. Spectre Tenebria's S2 gives her constant stealth, which means as long as there's another ally alive on your side who is not stealth, she cannot be attacked. It will also increase the attack and defense of herself by 7% every time someone dies. The effect can only be stacked up to 5 times. Spectre Tenebria's S3 is a single target attack that can stun an enemy for up to 1 turn, and it will decrease the combat readiness of all other enemies by 50% when an enemy dies. Damage dealt will increase proportional to the number of debuffs the enemy has, so if you have someone that applies debuffs, it can do a lot of damage. So yeah, I would recommend picking Spectre Tenebria or Arbiter Vildred, but mainly Spectre Tenebria. For me, I pick Spectre Tenebria. After you select who you want, it will give you tasks you need to do with them on the screen. You won't be able to use them in certain game modes until you complete them, so I'd recommend slowly working your way towards them. Now that we're done with that, let's head back to the expiring adventure path where we'll complete our next 2 missions. Equip an artifact and enhance an artifact. So what you're going to want to do is go back to the tavern, click on one of your characters, click details, then you'll see a hexagon above the gear. Click the hexagon and equip an artifact, and then level that artifact up. Another thing I'd recommend doing is leveling up your damage dealer to around level 30 because it just makes things way faster.
I've gotten stronger.
The next thing the aspiring adventure path wants you to do is explore Labyrinth and spend 40 ancient coins. Ancient coins are obtained in the Labyrinth and is the special currency obtained from it. And to get to it, just follow the icon by clicking on Battle and then clicking Labyrinth. Labyrinths don't use your standard energy, they use something called compasses. Compasses regenerate daily and can stack up to 5. Make sure to use them all because you don't want to be capped. And from there, just follow on the tutorial of the Labyrinth, complete the Labyrinth, and I'll probably make a video explaining Labyrinths more in depth later on. Or you could probably go look up a way better Labyrinth tutorial video. I'm sure there's plenty. So I'm just going to skip to the end of my Labyrinth run. See you there.
Dancing blade.
Damn, that was almost as easy as Challenger and RTA. But now that you've completed that, you want to make your way to the Labyrinth shop, and you want to purchase something from it. I would recommend never buying the level 22 to 60 accessory chest, and always buying charms. And now we're going to speedrun the Aspiring Adventures path, because most of it's just repeats of missions we've already done. Like enhancing equipment to level 6, boom, bop, done. Clear up to Adventure Stage 2-4, and also clear up to 2-6. Also make it to 2-9. And there's a Chaos Gate on 2-8, so make sure to do that. And after that, there's only one more mission you need to do before you've completed the Aspiring Adventurers path. And shockingly, it isn't complete 210. It's actually enhanced 2 pieces of equipment to +6, which is kind of underwhelming. Since you've already enhanced 1, you actually only need to enhance 1 more piece. And with that, you've actually completed the Aspiring Adventurers path, which was the main goal of this video. So, give yourself a big pat on the back. We did it, team. We did it. I'm still expecting to see you in Legend at the end of the week, and now you can move on to the beautiful Pursuer path and the Growing Adventurer path, which is really good, especially the beautiful Pursuer path. It gives you a really good ML4. Yeah, and with that, that basically concludes the New Players Experience Part 1, or 2, but technically Part 1. And if you watch the end, I'm genuinely shocked, and thank you. Consider subscribing, leave a like. I have no idea when Part 3 is going to be out because, honestly, I'm getting really busy. And yeah, and if I can migrate my other account to my computer, then you'll be seeing a lot more late game tutorials and stuff from me. Hopefully I can. If not, it's whatever. Have a good day. Keep doing what you're doing. Peace. But honestly, since you made it this far, I'll show you my Wyvern one shot. Awesome.
Sometimes darkness can become your light. I'm getting tired of you. Bye-bye now. Let's start with something light. Flash! Exterminating. Over here.
Understood. For his lofty goal.